You've walked above it. You didn't know it. Beneath the rainy streets of Seattle, under the tourists, the traffic, and the gleaming glass towers lies a hidden city, a forgotten lair sealed in brick and dust. Most people know Seattle for its Space Needle skyline, the aroma of coffee, and the fishmongers at Pike Place Market. But few know that directly beneath their feet is an abandoned world. Crumbling sidewalks, boarded-up shop fronts, and a sunken cityscape frozen in time. Once lively, then buried, and now rediscovered. The Seattle Underground is more than just a tourist curiosity. It's a shadow city built on top of itself after a strange and desperate plan to raise the streets instead of rebuilding the town. This is the story of how Seattle solved a deadly problem by creating a second city, and then forgot it existed. Seattle wasn't always perched confidently above the Puget Sound. It was practically sinking into it. In the late 1800s, the city was built on low-lying mudflats, right at the edge of the water. It made sense at first. Businesses had direct access to shipping routes and timber mills. But there was one major problem: the tides. Twice a day, seawater would flood the streets. Sidewalks became swamps. Basements are filled with mud. Homes and storefronts were at the mercy of nature. And when winter storms arrived, the streets didn't just flood, they disappeared. Still, the city grew. Buildings rose, neighborhoods expanded, but the muddy foundation remained unstable. The people of Seattle were literally building their future on quicksand. Something had to change. The first idea? Build a brand new city, somewhere higher. City planners suggested excavating a nearby hill, hauling tons of earth down to the waterfront, and raising the entire downtown district. The goal? Elevate the streets, protect the businesses, and start fresh on solid ground. It was ambitious, logical, expensive, and slow. Too slow. The businesses downtown couldn't afford to wait 10 years while bulldozers reshaped the land. They wanted access to the waterfront now, and so they said no. But their refusal didn't stop the city. It inspired something far stranger instead. Seattle's compromise was bold, chaotic, and unlike anything most cities had ever attempted. Instead of relocating or waiting for the land to rise, officials proposed something far more immediate: build the streets up, right over the existing ones. And that's exactly what they did. Massive stone retaining walls were constructed along the edges of existing streets, forming canyon-like corridors through the downtown core. Then they filled the gaps between the walls with tons of earth and debris, elevating the new street level by as much as 22 feet in some places. But here's the strange part. The original sidewalks stayed where they were, below the new roads, in the shadows. To bridge the gap, workers installed a roof of steel beams and brick arches over those sunken walkways. The streets above rolled on, while below, entire sidewalks were now enclosed in a strange, half-forgotten layer of urban infrastructure. Meanwhile, business owners faced a decision: raise their buildings to match the new street height, or repurpose their upper floors as the new entrance. Some jacked their buildings up, adding reinforced basements beneath. Others simply left their ground floors behind, creating a new street level halfway up the facade. It worked, sort of. The city had created a double-decker reality. Shops on the second story, sidewalks below them, and horse-drawn wagons rattling by overhead. For a while, it was brilliant. But this new version of Seattle came with its own problems. And over time, the lower level was left behind. For a brief, strange moment in Seattle's history, the underground was fully alive. After the streets were elevated, the old sidewalks below didn't disappear. They simply became covered walkways, protected from rain, wind, and snow. Shops continued operating at their original entrances, while wagons and carriages clattered by overhead. It was a split-level city, and people adjusted quickly. Pedestrians strolled beneath the new roads. Skylights embedded in the sidewalks above cast purplish daylight down into the dim passages. In a rainy city like Seattle, it felt almost like an upgrade, a dry, sheltered shopping experience below ground. Some even preferred it. And then it faded. As the decades rolled on, more and more businesses moved upstairs. New construction followed the elevated street plan, and the ground-level entrances below were forgotten. Stairs to the lower levels were boarded up, doors were sealed, dust settled, and by the early 20th century, the underground was all but abandoned. What had started as a practical fix became an accidental tomb, one that the city would soon forget even existed. For nearly half a century, the underground remained untouched, a shadow beneath Seattle's thriving streets. Entire storefronts were left exactly as they were. Signage faded, windows darkened, merchandise long gone. The city above modernized, paved over, and moved on. Meanwhile, below, the lower level of Seattle froze in time, hidden behind brick, steel, and silence. But time has a way of unearthing what we try to forget. Hard to believe this was all buried, isn't it? If you enjoy uncovering forgotten corners of history, quiet stories the world built over, consider joining me for more. There's a lot still hidden beneath our cities, and some of it is closer than you think. In the 1960s, a local historian named Bill Speidel changed everything. He began organizing walking tours through the hidden layers of downtown, sections of the underground that were still structurally sound and privately owned. His tour didn't just entertain, it rewrote how Seattle saw itself. Visitors wandered through dust-covered alleys, past crumbling walls and abandoned stairwells. They saw fire-scorched debris from Seattle's early disasters. They spotted real artifacts left behind when the lower city was sealed off: newspapers, fixtures, pieces of everyday life. And just like that, Seattle's lost level became a living museum. But not everything was restored. Some sections remained too dangerous, too decayed, or too strange to open. And what's left behind still raises questions about what's been preserved and what hasn't. Step inside the Seattle Underground, and you're stepping into a time capsule. As you move beneath the modern city, you find yourself flanked by stone retaining walls on one side and doorways, windows, and storefronts on the other. These were once ground-level entrances, now entombed beneath the elevated streets. The layout feels both familiar and alien. You recognize architectural styles, brick patterns, and signage, but it's all in the wrong place. The ground is no longer ground. You're walking through what used to be the street-level heart of the city, and now it's buried alive. Over the years, parts of the underground began to buckle. Brick walls sagged, sidewalks creaked above. In response, the city installed makeshift supports: steel poles, wooden beams, and concrete columns, all bracing the weight of the modern world above. It's an eerie combination: modern reinforcements holding up decaying 19th century architecture. Some sections look like construction zones. Others, like the workers just stepped out for lunch 100 years ago. And not all areas are open to the public. The deeper you go, the stranger it gets. Some parts of the underground seem almost untouched, sealed off, lightless, waiting. As you explore deeper into Seattle's forgotten underworld, you start to notice the details. The kind that tell you this place wasn't just hidden, it was once functional. Pipes run along the ceilings and walls. Some are rusted and broken, others are still connected to modern plumbing. It's a strange layering of timelines, ancient infrastructure spliced with newer upgrades, like the past and present trying to share the same cramped space. Some of these pipes were water lines. Others carried gas or sewage. A few were long abandoned and left to corrode in the damp underground air. They crisscrossed the walls like veins, hinting at how alive this space once was. Then you notice the skylights. Scattered across the ceiling are clusters of small purple glass circles, the remnants of vault lights installed over a century ago. These allowed sunlight to filter down from the sidewalk above, illuminating the lower sidewalks during the brief time they were still in use. If you've ever walked Seattle's streets and spotted those odd glass tiles beneath your feet, now you know what they were for. What was once a practical light source is now a silent marker, a clue that there's something below you. And most people walk over it every day, without ever looking down. Not everything in Seattle's underground was abandoned right away. For some, it became an asset. In the early 20th century, a few businesses found clever new uses for the buried passageways. One of the most fascinating? Banks. Several institutions repurposed segments of the underground as vaults and transport corridors, moving money discreetly beneath the streets, safe from both thieves and storms. Even when the lobbies closed upstairs, operations could continue below, away from the public eye. In a city shaped by weather and commerce, this hidden layer became an unofficial highway for high-value transfers. But there was one big problem: no real connection. Seattle's decision to raise the streets block by block had one critical flaw. It didn't connect those blocks underground. There were no tunnels beneath intersections, so if you wanted to cross the street underground, you couldn't. Instead, you had to climb stairs back up to street level, cross over, then descend again into the next segment of buried sidewalk. It was inconvenient, clunky, and it meant the underground never truly became a cohesive second city. It remained fragmented, like a puzzle that never fit together, and that disconnection may be part of why it was eventually left behind. Hard to believe this was all buried, isn't it? At the corner of what was once a busy intersection, you can still see it, the stone facade of a former business, complete with its front door, arched windows, and signage. But it's all underground now. A century ago, you could stand there and look in both directions, seeing city blocks stretch out with carriages rattling by and sunlight or rain falling from above. Today, that same corner is sealed in darkness, locked beneath brick, concrete, and time. The ground above is full of life, but below, it's like the past never left, just fell asleep. This is what happens when a city builds on top of itself. The old world doesn't disappear. It just waits. Seattle's underground isn't just a curiosity, it's a reminder. A reminder that the past doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it lingers just below the surface. Beneath every street corner, every purple glass skylight, every brick wall, there are layers of choices, accidents, and survival. What began as a desperate engineering fix became a living time capsule. A second city hidden beneath the first, not erased, just forgotten, until someone started asking what was under their feet. So the next time you're walking through Pioneer Square or noticing strange glass circles in the sidewalk, pause, look down, and wonder, what else is still buried beneath your city? Seattle's past is literally beneath our feet. But what about where you live? If this journey made you wonder what's hidden under your own city, you're not alone. Subscribe and join me as we uncover more forgotten places, because some of the greatest stories aren't written in books. They're buried in the ground, waiting to be found.